So what we're going to look at now is dealing with our following feature. And if I take a look at my profile, this is the area we're going to focus on now. We're going to deal with the followers and following, giving the user the ability to follow other users' profile. Although obviously on the current user's profile, this button is not going to be displayed. And what we also want to be able to do is get a list of the followers and the following for the user's profile that we're looking at. In addition to this, what we're doing is, inside our activity, we want this following to only be displayed when the user's actually following another user. And also on the activity list items, what we'll do is we'll just add a border around each individual attendee in a different color to identify that the user is following that particular user. So that's where we're going with this. And what we need to do first of all is set up the entity and our relationships for this. So let's head back to VS Code and start implementing this particular feature. And what we'll do is we'll start with the domain model. Now what we're creating here really is a many-to-many self-referencing relationship, because our app user is going to be able to follow many other app users and also be followed by many other app users. So what we're going to create is a join entity to join these together, and inside the domain I'm going to create a new C# class and we'll call this UserFollowing. And inside here we're going to have observers and we're going to have targets. And the observers are going to follow the targets, in other words. So what we'll do, we'll say prop string, and we'll have an observer ID. And then we'll specify the observer is an app user. So we'll specify observer. And then we'll do a prop for string for the target ID. And this will also be an app user, and it will be called targets. Now both of these are going to be navigation properties, so we also need to specify the virtual keyword here as well. And I'll do the same for the target. And then what we need to do is update our app user entity, as each user will have followings and followers. So let's go to the app user. And inside here we'll add another two collections. So we'll add an I collection of user following, and we'll call this followings. And we'll add another I collection, and again this will be user following, and we'll call this followers. What we then need to do is go ahead and define our relationship inside our data context. So let's head over here next. And inside the data context, what we'll do is we'll need a DB set for this. So we'll add a DB set and call it user following. And we'll just call this one followings. And we need a DB set because we want to be able to get a list of the user's followings directly from the context without going via a navigation property. And then what we need to do is actually define our relationship as well. And what we'll do, down inside our onModelCreating method, we'll add some additional configuration using Entity Framework Fluid Configuration. And what we'll do is we'll say builder.entity and say user following. And what we'll do inside here is we'll add an expression and we'll say b for builder. And we'll say b.hasKey, and we'll say the key is a combination of both the observer ID and the target ID. So we'll specify new, and then we'll say k.observerID, comma, and k.targetID. And then we'll define both sides of this many-to-many relationship. So what we'll do, we'll say b.has1, and we'll say o goes to o.observer, and we'll say with many, and f.followings, and we'll specify it has a foreign key of O going to O.ObserverID, and we'll specify the onDelete behavior to be the deleteBehavior.restrict. And then what we'll do is just do the opposite for the targets in this case. So I'll just copy this down to be a little bit lazy and just sort out the formatting. And we'll swap the observer for target here, and the followings will swap for followers. And the has foreign key will be the target ID, and the onDelete stays the same. So this is our relationship configured. And what we can do now is add our migration for this. So please make sure you stop your API, otherwise this will certainly give you an error. And we'll cd into the solution folder, and then once again we'll just do our .NET EF migrations add, and I'll just say added following entity, and we'll specify the P for persistence and -S for the API, and press return. And if you get an error like this, it means you've forgotten to add the virtual keyword to our properties. And when we use lazy loading proxies, we require all entity types to be public, unsealed, and have virtual navigation properties. And I've obviously forgotten to do this inside my app user class, which I have. So let's just add these properties in. And I will try again, and let's do this again, and just go up and press return, and this time it should be successful. And it is. So let's go check our migration to make sure this has been configured correctly. And inside the migrations, let's check the new migration that's been added, and we're creating a new table called followings, with just two columns, our observer ID and our target ID. And we've got our primary key, which is a combination of the observer and the targets. And then our foreign keys are set to the ASP.NET user's observer ID and the ASP.NET user's target ID, which equates to the ID of the user, along with the restriction for the onDelete as well. So that looks good. And what we can do then to apply this migration is go back to our terminal. I'll just cd into the API and then just do a .NET watch run. And this will have applied our new migration. So what we'll do next is we'll work our way up the chain, and next we'll add our handlers so that we can add a new following and delete a following. And we'll take a look at that next.